The rain hammered against the windows like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry. Marcus Chen stood in his dimly lit kitchen, staring at the half-eaten chicken nuggets on his daughter's plate, dinosaur-shaped, because those were the only ones Emma would touch lately. At 7 years old, she'd become particular about everything since her mother left. Particular about food. Particular about which stuffed animal tucked her in at night. Particular about asking why mommy didn't love them anymore, a question that still gutted Marcus every single time. He was rinsing the dishes when the knock came. Not the casual tap of a neighbor or the authoritative pound of a delivery driver, but something desperate. Urgent. The kind of knock that said please without using words. Marcus dried his hands on a dish towel, glancing at the clock. 9:30. Emma was already asleep upstairs, her nightlight casting fairy tale shadows across her room. He approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. A young woman stood on his porch, drenched to the bone. Her dark hair plastered against her face, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. She couldn't have been more than 25, wearing jeans and a thin sweater that offered no protection against the November storm. But it was her eyes that stopped him, wide, terrified, darting over her shoulder toward the street. Every instinct screamed at Marcus to keep the door closed. This was America in 2026. You didn't open your door to strangers at night. You called the police and let them handle it. He had a daughter sleeping upstairs. A responsibility. A life built on careful decisions and measured risks. The woman knocked again, harder this time. Please, she said, her voice barely audible through the door. Please, I need help. Marcus's hand hesitated on the deadbolt. He thought about Emma, about keeping her safe. About all the times people had walked past him when he was struggling, pretending not to see a single dad fumbling with a stroller while simultaneously trying to answer work emails. About the loneliness that came from living in a world where everyone was too afraid to reach out. He opened the door. The woman nearly collapsed into his entryway, catching herself against the wall. Up close, she looked even younger, her whole body trembling, from cold or fear, Marcus couldn't tell. Maybe both. Thank you, she gasped. Thank you, God, thank you. Are you hurt? Marcus asked, already reaching for his phone. Should I call an ambulance? No. Her hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. No police. No ambulance. Please. He'll find me. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He'd opened his door to someone running from something, or someone. This could be a domestic situation. Could be drugs. Could be any number of scenarios that had no business entering his home where his daughter slept. Miss, I want to help, but I have a child upstairs. I need to know what's going on. The woman's eyes filled with fresh tears. I know. I'm sorry. I saw your light on, saw the toys in the yard. I thought maybe someone with a family would understand. She swallowed hard. My name is Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. 2 men have been following me for 3 days. They took my phone, my wallet, everything. I escaped from a hotel room tonight. I've been running for hours. Marcus studied her face, looking for deception. He'd learned to read people in his years as a project manager, dealing with clients who promised one thing and delivered another. But all he saw in Sarah Mitchell was genuine terror. Okay, he said quietly. Come inside. Sit down. Tell me everything. Over the next hour, Sarah's story spilled out in fragments. She was a research assistant at a pharmaceutical company in Chicago. She'd discovered discrepancies in drug trial data, serious ones that suggested her company was falsifying results for a medication about to hit the market. When she'd reported it to her supervisor, things had gone wrong fast. Her apartment had been broken into. Her car had been tampered with. And then 2 men had grabbed her from a parking garage, telling her she needed to rethink her priorities. She'd managed to escape when they stopped for gas, breaking a bathroom window and running into the rainy night. She'd been moving through neighborhoods for hours, afraid to approach anyone, until she saw Marcus's house, the only one on the block with lights still burning. Marcus listened, his mind racing. This sounded insane, like something from a movie. But the bruises on her wrists were real. The panic in her voice was real. And when headlights suddenly swept across his front window, slowing as they passed his house, Sarah's reaction was visceral. She dropped to the floor, pulling herself into a ball. They're looking for me, she whispered. Marcus moved to the window, careful to stay hidden. A dark sedan idled at the end of his driveway for what felt like an eternity before moving on. His heart hammered in his chest. He thought about Emma upstairs. About the simple, quiet life he'd built for them after the divorce. About how much easier it would be to ask Sarah to leave, to call the police and wash his hands of this situation. Instead, he said, "You can stay tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out how to get you somewhere safe." Sarah's shoulders shook with silent sobs. "Why are you helping me? You don't know me." Marcus thought about his answer. About his own mother, who'd raised him alone after his father walked out. About the teacher who'd noticed he was coming to school hungry and quietly started packing him extra lunches. About the neighbor who'd babysat Emma for free when Marcus had to rush his own mother to the hospital last year. About all the small acts of human kindness that had built a net beneath his life, catching him when he fell. "Because someone would help my daughter if she needed it," he finally said. "At least, I hope they would." The night was long. Marcus set Sarah up in the guest room, gave her dry clothes, made her tea. He checked the locks 3 times. Every car that passed made his pulse spike. Around 3 in the morning, Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching her stuffed elephant. "Daddy." I heard voices. Marcus climbed the stairs, scooping her into his arms. "Just the TV, baby. Go back to sleep. Are you okay?" Emma asked, touching his face with her small hand. "You look worried." Marcus kissed her forehead. "I'm perfect now. I've got you, don't I?" Morning came with weak sunlight and a decision. Marcus contacted a lawyer friend who specialized in whistleblower cases. Within hours, Sarah was connected with federal investigators who'd been building their own case against the pharmaceutical company. Her testimony was the piece they'd been missing. 2 months later, Marcus received a letter. Sarah's information had led to indictments, recalls, and reforms. She was safe now, relocated and protected. But more than that, she wrote, she'd been reminded that good people still existed. That humanity wasn't dead. That one person's choice to open a door could change everything. Marcus kept the letter in his desk drawer. Sometimes, when the loneliness crept in during the quiet hours after Emma went to bed, he'd read it again. He hadn't protected anyone special that night. He'd just protected someone. And maybe that was the point. Emma asked about the lady who'd stayed over, and Marcus told her the truth, that sometimes people need help, and when we can give it, we should. She seemed to understand in the way children do, accepting it as naturally as she accepted that the sun rises and sets. The world didn't get less complicated. But Marcus had learned something that rainy November night. Kindness was a choice you made despite the fear, not without it. And sometimes, the most ordinary person in the most ordinary house could be exactly what someone needed to survive their darkest hour. He'd opened his door not knowing who he was protecting. In the end, maybe he'd protected them both. Sarah from the people hunting her, and himself from becoming someone who could turn away from another person's desperate knock in the night.